welcome back to the shop. Where did we leave off last time? Well, probably no one can remember unless you go back in the videos. But where we left off was we cut the seats, they're both cut, and we left off needing to do the valves. So we need to grind the valves. We got these valves. Bought these valves. There's going to be a bit of a change in plan, but we're just going to finish this video off on the valves and valve seats just to get out of the way. To get it out of the way, well, where do we leave off here? Well, we had to take out a lot of metal out of the head. I mean, that was a pretty big hole as it was on the valve seat, but there was a lot of deep marks in that seat that we had to resolve by cutting metal away. And we're not left with a whole lot, but we're left with enough to be able to make it run. So that's the most important part. What we're going to do in the next video is I'm going to show you how I actually make valves. These are store-bought valves. But I'll tell you what happens to me is I get thinking about it for a good while. And the reason I stalled on this whole project was I get thinking about something and I think, you know what? That just is not the way to do it. I'm cheating myself. I was cheating myself because I was buying valves. And you cheat yourself when you know you can do better and you don't. The fact is, I know I can make valves. Hold on, let me just get you something. All right, so what I did was we came up with this. We're going to make our own valves. Maybe not for this one. Maybe for another one, we'll just put new valves in another engine just to see that it works and show you that it works. What was this before? Before it was whatever this was. So I can make valves in a couple different ways. I can make heads, valve heads. I can make valve stems. I can make them separate. I can do a lot of things. I can make it the same material and I can weld the stem onto the head. I can heat it and peen it. I could thread it. Man, I could do a lot of stuff, press fit. But how about just making it out of one piece? This originally is a, I don't know how many inches is that? 6? Yeah, a guy would say 6, maybe even 8. This is a 5 or 6 inch grade 5 1-inch bolt. Well, it doesn't look like a bolt now, does it? No, because we knocked the corners off and we took all the threading off. That's what you're left with. Why a grade 5? Well, we'll talk about that in that video, in that next video that'll be coming down the line. But that's the rough product. Obviously that doesn't fit in there just yet, but in one of these engines it's going to fit. That's the rough product. Threads knocked off, corners knocked off. Now you're ready to refine it and cut the valve face and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, forget about that for now. Just wanted to catch up to speed on that. So the thing was, you can do better. So why don't you do better, right? Just do better. Just none of this toxic masculinity stuff. Just do better. Anyway, back to the valves. Let's go over the cutter. Let's cut a face on here and I'll show you how I do all that. All right, well, you may not have seen this before. I've barely seen it because it's really new to me. It's a Black & Decker Super Service valve refacer. Now, in the days where companies actually made really good tools like Black & Decker, you could count on that, and those were kind of commercial. This would have been a commercial tool. It would have been sold back then, well, late 40s, 50s. How's that sound? It would have been sold back then by Snap-on, actually. Snap-on sold these Black & Deckers. That's a Super Service valve refacer. You got a couple components. You got your stone in, out, or back and forward. So everything kind of moves X, Y, right? And you got your turning apparatus for your valve. Your valve goes in there. It's a little 3-jaw chuck, clamps down. This little piece right here will, as I shake the camera for you, it goes in there, This is your valve, this is your grinding stone refacer. It's got a focus there. It's got a diamond in there, an industrial diamond. That's what you use. That's what you use for resurfacing stones. Anyway, that's the long and short of that. Let's get down to doing the first job first, and that is refacing the stone. You got to start with a nice level stone. So let's get you on the tripod and I'll show you what we do. All right, there's a stone. You got power to your stone, power to your grinder, And over here, power to your turning, well, you could call it a lathe, I guess, if you want to. In goes your facer. Now, out of curiosity here, let's make a little scratch mark for you so you can see how far out this stone is since the last time I saw it. Let's just make a little mark across that, just so I hear it cut. Now, I don't know. Yeah, you can maybe see that right there. See that light spot over there? Nothing over here. That means it's a lot higher over here, which means I was doing all my grinding over there in that dark spot. So we want that to be perfectly, flat, planed in a plumb? No, I don't know. Anyway, at 90 degrees with the valve, basically. So what we got to do is turn it on and level the whole thing out with the stone. Exciting, wasn't that? Yes, it was. But you can see it's all one color now, and now we can start with our with grinding the valve faces. Here's an example for you of something you might not want to do. You see this? Focus. See that? See the mark on that valve? Yeah, I ground right into the face of that valve. How did I do that? Well, this grinding stone spins a lot faster than this does, and this stops immediately. So when your valve is in there, if you happen to do something stupid like I did, and that was kick the extension cord that the unit's plugged into, this stops way before that stone, and it's still in contact with the stone. This keeps on going even though there's power shut off to it, and it grinds a nice big flat spot on your valve. And if you only paid $5 for it like I did, well, you just throw it over there in the pile and you get another $5 valve. So here's one that's not ground yet. So the idea is, let's take you off this tripod for a second. Or should we? Yeah, why not? Let's take you off. We got some angles here. See them? There they are. Here's your angles. 45 is an important one. Another important one is that scratch mark that I got right there. So that scratch mark that I got right there, let me explain something to you how this works. So that scratch mark is roughly 47, 48 degrees. Don't tell me how I know that, but I did measure off the entire area and figure out what that was. So this valve, as it comes, is a 45 degree valve. The valve the valve seat has been cut at 45. Well, that gives you two 45s, which, let's just zoom you out here, gives you two 45s, which if you have them, they're like that, on top of each other. So you got the valve and the valve seat on top of each other. That's your touch area. Making sense? Yeah, clear as mud. So that's your touching area. Now, you have to have an interference fit, so if it's like this, and you cut your valve at, say, 44, it ain't going to work out because you got a big open spot at the top of your valve seat. And all the exhaust gas rushes underneath there and you get no seal. But what you do is you cut it at an interference fit. So the more angle you have on that interference fit, the less is actually touching the valve seat. Now, on an engine like this, where spring pressure is very low, it's important to have a very, very thin line, contact line, between the valve and the valve seat. I'm likely screwing up some words while I'm talking, but you get the idea. You have to have that small little contact line, because that narrow little contact line is where all the weight of the spring is compressed, and where compression is also compressed. It all pushes that valve into that seat on that little line. If you have a big, wide, broad line, you have your pressure is spread over a larger area, and you don't get a really nice seal. So anyway, I have found that 47, 48 degree is about perfect for making that little wee line that I'm going to show you in a bit. So Let's chuck a valve in here. Goes in. Tighten that up. Kind of give that a turn as you tighten it up so it seats nice all the way around. I've cleaned all those jaws, so I know that they're nice. They're not, they're not going to give me a bunch of run out. So basically, I got to have this so it's going to have all contact on that stone. Going to bring up the stone face to the valve. Are you catching this? You want me to bring you in a touch? There you go. You see what we're going to do is we're going to grind the face of that valve against that stone. So we want to bring that up, and I want to be just about at the contact area. Should be there. So I got nothing there right now, but I can make it all the way across that stone with that valve. When we start cutting, grinding, this valve needs to be in motion all the time, because if you don't, you end up with a heavy wear area here, no wear area over here. I'm really kind of just skimming over this. I mean, if you guys got any specific questions, just stick them down in the comments and I'll get to you. Anyway, I'm going to turn this baby on, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the face so that that's cut exactly at 47, and I'm going to be able to see it. It could be all shiny on the side. So you saw it before, and let's grind it and you can see it then when it's done. Done. That's all it takes. Let's move this guy back so I don't have a contact by accident. I'm going to zoom you out from that a bit. This valve is hot. You're supposed to have cooling dripping over there. I'm not bothered by all that, but this valve will be warm. If I had coolant dripping over there, the valve would not be warm. Here's the new face of this valve. You see it shiny the whole way? Now I can tell what's going on with this valve, how it's cutting, because for a couple reasons. You can see the sparks coming intermittent kind of blasts, you know, it goes ch 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 ch. That means it's not cutting even on the whole face all the way around. So when it stops and it's one steady stream of sparks, you know you're there. But now you just got to make sure you clean, because this was a 45 valve and we're making it a 47, you know, steeper, well, steeper this way. We got to get it cleaned up all the way to the top of that valve, which would be the margin on the valve, and all the way back to the bottom of that valve. So we're there. So that valve is effectively cut. So we're gonna go put it in the head, and I know it's a bit smaller than I'd like, but we may fix that with that new valve making process. But let's go and see if we can't maybe lap that valve in. Some lapping compound, we'll show you how that works, and get a good seal on that. All right, guys, so to do this job, obviously you need your valve, you need your seat already ready to go, your valve ready to go, and you need a suction cup. This guy here, big valve, little valve, goes on there. You can put a little spit on it if you want to. A little dab will do you. Anyway, get that suction cupped on there. Some of the valves have a little mark on them or a groove cut, so you can stick a screwdriver in. But this one here, just use the suction cup. Other than that, you need some valve cutting or a valve grinding compound. What is that? A couple different. Start over. So this one here's valve grinding compound. This one's made by Permatex. They have a couple different grits. This one is just a general. It's mixed. It's grease basically mixed with, man, I don't know, silica maybe. Let's just have a look here. Let's not spend too much time looking. Grit. Anyway, good old-fashioned grit, true grit. So you take your valve, and you can apply it to the seat, or you can apply it to the valve by just make sure it's mixed up. Okay, you don't want to well, that oil in there. You just want to mix that up and get it all over your finger. And make sure you get a rag. And apply some. I'll just apply some to the seat. How's that sound? Make sure after you're done grinding or lapping that you clean it all out, because if that stuff gets down into that into the valve guide, it'll make your valve guides bigger, and there's no point in reaming them out so tight if you're just going to make them a whole lot bigger, huh? You know, you gotta take care of those little details. Stick that on there, run your valve back in, make sure there was none in that guide bore, which is not. Stick your valve on there like so, and you're going to basically crank back and forth, and I'm going to back you up because you can't see my magical hands at work. Oh yeah, that's going to be better. And crank like that. Oh, you hear it grinding too, huh? Turn it 180 degrees, same again, 180 degrees, and just keep doing that. And I mean, you don't have to do it all night, but I don't even know if I should do this in real time. It's going to take you, like doing that, and you'll have to reapply, you know, a little bit more grinding compound here or there, or just kind of redistribute it back. Up, down, you know the drill. Yeah, you know, do this for, hell, I don't know, 5 minutes. How's that sound? So I'm going to do this for 5 minutes. I'm going to turn you off, and I'm going to turn you back on. All right, I spent my 5 minutes wisely. You know how you can tell? You get your valve, you have a look at it, and you're looking for that line I was telling you about earlier. So on the top of your valve, you should still have a bright spot. On the bottom, you should have a bright spot. And your contact line should be right in the middle of the valve. Let's see if I can get you to have a look at that, huh? There you go. You see it there? I could probably clean that up a little more, but there's a rub mark all the way along, like a pencil line. There you go. You can kind of see it there now a lot better. There's a pencil line all the way around that valve face. That's your contact line. When you got that line, and you got a margin on top, you got a bit on the bottom, that way you know that you've got a perfect contact with the spring pressure. Compression is going to hold it tight. Compression is not going to leak past that valve. And you'll have the same line, as a matter of fact, on your valve seat. So, I mean, that's about all there is to it. You have that little margin there that tells you that you have not used up that entire valve yet. You could probably still lap that in another time if you want to. You might even be able to grind it one more time if you're lucky. Anyway, that goes right on in there. I've already cleaned that out. In there. And your other one, one's the intake, one's the exhaust. Let's see which one's what. That one I just put in there, this one we just did was the exhaust. You can also check, I mean, you can put your finger down, kind of hold over top of it, blow in the exhaust, and if no air leaks out, man, you got a nice seal. Really, in a perfect world, you'd want exactly no loss whatsoever. No air to water. I think they actually test them with water, or maybe they test them under pressure, full spring pressure. I don't know. Anyway, that's it, guys. That is your valve cutting and lapping demo. Like I say, I probably glazed over a whole ton of crap, and I'll be looking at this video later. I'm thinking, man, why didn't I tell him about this? Why didn't I give him some of my best jokes? Yeah, more so, why didn't I give you my best jokes? Anyway, that's it for tonight, guys. Next time you're going to see me is probably, we are in the middle of, let's just knock you off this tripod and show you what we're up to over here. What we're up to, yeah, some of you know what this is, huh? That's your compound. It goes on your lathe. It's from my Atlas 10F. This is your apron with your hand feed and your compound power feed. And this here is for your half nuts. There's a joke in there somewhere. These are your half nuts. Mine, very, very worn. Half nuts worn. Actually, not that. Well, they're worn. They're worn. And so what is also worn on my lathe is a lead screw. Only in, and let's come on over here, only in a very certain area. And you're not going to see it because my lead screw is off in my buddy's place, and he is doing a little job for me, a very accurate, required accurate job. He's cutting a new keyway in my lead screw so that I can take that lead screw, flip it the other way, And because this is your work area on a lathe, generally no one's working over here. So you're working over here. That's where your lead screw, where the Acme screw is nice and flat on top, where that gets wore to a point. And now you have, you know, a whole lot of lash in there. We'll talk about lash and all that kind of pitches and stuff another time. Anyway, needless to say, that lead screw's with my buddies. I think he's done it now. And we are waiting. Clausing in the United States. I'm not sure where the place is. If anyone wants the address for Clausing, they're looking for parts. Clausing has them. They have everything I need. They got half nuts. While I'm in here, I'm changing the reverse gears. In here, there's 3 gears. One here, one's a shifter. Moves back and forth. And gives you reverse and forward. Basically, you flip over to the other side of a disc, and it's going this way. You go this way, you're actually moving the other way. Yeah, confusing as hell. But what that does is it lets me feed under power. So right now I could only feed, you know, move the carriage this way, down the bed, down the ways. But over here it was skipping, so I couldn't power feed. Actually, you can see I'm working on one of those valves right now, where I was, until I stopped. It started skipping. Once it starts skipping, you can't power feed, and you don't get that real nice, perfect, consistent finish that you're looking for, what I'm looking for. Anyway, that should be all back together next week. The parts are coming in. Like I said, I got half nuts coming, got the reverse gears. Also, what the reverse gears allow you to do is let you power feed on this one. I showed you it's got the pull. It lets you power feed your compound back and forth across the ways, that way, this way. Currently, it only does one way. Also, if you don't have the power feed, you can't thread. And I really would like to do some of my own threading. So anyway, that's it for tonight, guys. Oh my God, what else am I working on? I have been working on dovetails. Yeah, I got this jig. It's actually pretty cool. I'll show you that maybe another time. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with me in the shop. And that is the end of the valve series. And hey, have a good night. Have a good what do we got? Weekend coming up. And any questions, comments, leave them down in the comment box. Comment, like, subscribe, share the love, man. Take it easy. Have a good night.